Welcome back, everybody, to this week's edition of the PGA DFS Pick Show. I am your host, John McNutt. You can find me on socials at JohnCool19, here for Fantasy Sports Insight, talking PGA DFS golf. This is Masters Week, finally the first major of the year. Super excited to get into it. As always, FantasyNationalGolfClub.com. That is where we get all of our stats for this show. As well as ownership projections, all of the extra information that we put in our Discord chat as well. Again, Fantasy National Golf Club is the best in the business when it comes to providing stats for the PGA Tour. So big shout out to those guys. But let's go ahead and jump right in. It is Masters Week. As always, Masters is played at Augusta National Golf Club in Augusta, Georgia. The course, it's a brute, 7,500 yards. It's a par 72 with pure bent grass greens. A few things to note about the course. Although most people that are betting DFS golf know this course better than any other on tour. This is again, it's a long, difficult course in general. We've got very wide fairways, but the greens, the fairways, the whole course has lots of different undulations, different elevation changes, difficult lies. You could be in the middle of the fairway and your ball could be above your feet, or be in the rough as well and have just very difficult lies if you do happen to miss the fairway. This course is all about being in the right areas, even though it's a wide fairway. If you're in the left half instead of the right half on certain holes, you are absolutely out of position. So I think one of the biggest keys to this week is course history. Golfers who've played here before and been able to understand where they need to put their ball in order to have a better second shot in on the at the flag. Very, very important this week. Number one stat this week, though, is going to be approach play, kind of ball striking. Both of those all include high in my modeling. Par 5 scoring as well. Really, if you can just play well on the par 5s and then par the rest of the course, that's easy to say, difficult to do, but that is enough to absolutely place well on the leaderboard this week. So par 5 scoring, very, very critical. Drive distance, as I mentioned, these holes, some of the more difficult ones, absolutely, there's a huge advantage for golfers who are a long driver. That's why we've seen success for many guys like a Dustin Johnson, even Rory McIlroy, who hasn't won here yet. Certainly drive distance, very helpful for their game. You'll see some guys like maybe Colin Morikawa, who does not hit the ball all that far off the tee. He makes up for it with his elite approach play, and even some golfers who are very good around the greens. Just being able to get up and down for par over and over and over is huge. So around the greens is pretty high in my modeling this week as well. Last couple stats I'm including are birdie or better. Got to be able to make some birdies. I also included shots gained on difficult scoring courses, shots gained in the wind, because I am expecting some weather issues this week. And then the last one that I include always here at this course is proximity from 200 plus yards. There are some very long par 4s. We see quite a few shots coming in from that 200 plus range. So that is about it as far as stats and modeling go. We always share additional information like that in the chat. So certainly, if you'd like to join us, FSI's Discord can be found on our website, FSI.DFS.com, or through our Twitter handle, FSI_DFS. Both of those are the best way to join the Discord for Fantasy Sports Insight and get all that extra info. We will also post our cores there every Wednesday, weather, kind of a last minute update as we go into Wednesday night, and then also ownership projections. So don't miss out on that. But let's jump into the picks. That's why everyone is here. My favorite picks this week, starting with Rory McIlroy. He is at 10,600 on DraftKings. I like Roy a lot this week. I think he will win. I absolutely think he is due to win the Masters. He's won all the other majors. This is not his first, not his second, but he has many attempts at going for this career Grand Slam. I think this is the year he finally does it. He's at in the betting market 7.5 to 1 to win. The form is really good. He was finished third at the match play. He did beat Scotty Scheffler in that third place match. He did have a missed cut at the Players. I'm not too worried about that. He has made his last 9 cuts prior to that. It also includes wins on the DP World Tour. He had a win at the CJ Cup during the swing season. So really good form for Rory coming in. The course history is good as well. He was runner-up here last year, and he has played Augusta National 14 times. He's only had 2 missed cuts, and of those 14, 7 times he was top 10 finish here at Augusta. So I like his course history a ton. I mentioned that he missed the cut at the Players. Looking at kind of the reason why he didn't have a great short game week, the putter was off, and also his around the green game was just terrible. It was the worst around the green numbers he's had in over 2 years, according to Fantasy National. Just really, really bad. I expect that to click and turn back around. He tends to gain strokes around the greens versus what he did back at Sawgrass. So I expect a change there, right back up to the leaderboard for Rory this week. Looking at his stats, he comes in over the last 36 rounds, second in ball striking, 16th around the greens. I mentioned he's very good at that usually. Third birdie or better, and second on par five scoring. And then again, that distance stat, as we all know, Rory is excellent off the tee when it comes to distance. He is number one in this field last 36 rounds. So everything points, for me at least, that Rory is a great, great option. I think of the big three, Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy, Jon Rahm. I think that Rory might end up being the most popular of that three. Take it into consideration if you're playing GPP lineups. You certainly need to probably be very overweight on Rory, have a ton of exposure to him if you want some leverage on the field there. Really, the best leverage would be to fade all three. If you're willing to do that, that's terrifying. This course, certainly either any of those three guys can win. And my pick, though, Rory McIlroy. Second favorite for me, and part of this is pricing, that is Tony Finau. He's at 8,900, 20 to 1 outright to win. I've seen a lot of cards so far this week with a much better than 20 to 1 on Tony Finau, but that's what DraftKings Sportsbook is showing right now. I really like Tony a lot this week, and I think he's going to be very popular on DraftKings. Also, at 8,900, really good price for him. The form, he's made his last 9 cuts on tour. He was a winner back in November. He's also had top 25 in every single event since that win. So playing some really, really good golf lately. Course history for Tony, he does have 5 appearances here. 3 of those are top 10 finishes, and his worst finish is 38th. So I think consistent, excellent cash option is Tony Finau. I think for when you're making your builds here, he is likely a second guy in for you, maybe even a third if you're trying to go kind of top heavy with a 10K, 9K, and then Tony Finau at 8,900. But absolutely, I think he is just about a cash lock for me when it comes to his pricing here at 8,900. Really, really good Tony Finau. Like him a lot this week. His stats for him, his last 36 rounds, he is third in ball striking, second birdies are better, and he is 12th on that par 5 scoring. So a lot to like there, checks a lot of boxes, does Tony Finau. Now, in order to fit those in, let's talk about some cheaper options here, some value guys. For me, I'm kind of going a bit lower this week on for Keith Mitchell. He's 7,100 on DraftKings, 90 to 1. I don't think Keith Mitchell wins the Masters this week, but I think he's a great option as a top 10 bet on the outright market there. So look for him for top 10 bets, I should say. Look at him. I think he's got a really good chance at that this week. He's made 8 out of his last 10 cuts on tour. He's top 25, though, in 4 out of his last 6 events. That includes a very difficult field in the Genesis, where he was 5th place. His course history here, only played it once. He was 43rd place back in 2019. But I think if you've been following Keith Mitchell, he has been playing excellent the last year or so. Really much better golfer, I think, than he was in 2019. But that experience of playing here before should help him quite a bit. Again, 43rd place. I think he stands to improve on that significantly this week. He rates out really, really well on difficult courses. And then for stats, he is 22nd in the field, ball striking, 16th birdie or better. He's top 15 on par 5 scoring. And really what Keith Mitchell's game is off the tee. He is 6th in distance in this field. I really like Keith Mitchell's chances to help your DraftKings lineups at 7,100. Now, as a couple pivot options, first to note, that is the live golfers. Now, obviously, I think some of the guys up top, Cam Smith's going to get a decent amount of ownership. I think some people will be picking Dustin Johnson as well, maybe some Joaquin Niemann. But really, as you kind of get down into the pricing, I see a lot of these golfers. They look like they're going under-owned on DraftKings. I'm talking about your Sergio Garcia, Bubba Watson, Taylor Gooch, maybe some Harold Varner, Kokrak, Schwartzel. These are guys that have played well here previously, have had some success at Augusta National, and just because they're playing on the Live Tour doesn't mean that they cannot come out here, make the cut, and make some waves. I think all of those guys are very, very inspired to have a great week. They want to kind of stick it to the PGA Tour if they have the chance. And let's be honest, these are still world-class golfers, even if they are not playing on the PGA Tour. They have excellent chances. So certainly look their way for a couple of those guys. As far as kind of some pivot options, a lot of them are not going to be as highly owned as some of the PGA Tour regulars. Also, just a second note on ownership. This is a much smaller field than we see week to week on the PGA Tour. This is much closer to something that we would see as a no-cut event. I think between that and having some golfers at the very bottom of the pricing that nobody will be selecting, just kind of based on whether it's age or kind of the form they're in, that they just happen to get an invite here, the amateur players included in that. I think we are going to see the ownership just very, very high on a lot of players. So that kind of leads me into my low-owned pivots here. Patrick Cantlay at 9,500. Typically, I would not say somebody at about 14% projected ownership is a pivot option, but based on all the golfers around him, or at least most of them being something more like 19, 20, 22, 25% projected ownership, Patrick Cantlay, I think, absolutely is a pivot option for you here. I see him much lower than Jordan Spieth, much lower than Justin Thomas in the pricing right next to him. His Masters history is not great, and that's why people aren't picking Patrick Cantlay this week. But really, everything points towards he should play well at this course. He just hasn't before. He has 2 missed cuts and only 1 top 15 in his 6 tries here. So look Patrick Cantlay's way if you're looking as an ownership pivot in the high range at 9,500. A bit lower, Ty Hatton, 7,900, coming off a missed cut last week when he was I think the highest priced golfer at the Valero. A lot of people picked him to win it, but again, he let everybody down. He's now at 7,900. His ownership, I think, is going to bottom out this week. I'm looking at a projection, maybe around 6% owned. That's less than half of Justin Rose. Shane Lowry, Sungjae Im is probably going to be 3 times the ownership as him. And really, Ty Hatton has been playing some excellent golf lately. A good reason why people are not picking him, that's the course history. He hasn't played great here. He has just 1 top 20 finish in 6 tries, but his stats and his form are very good. He's a great ball striker, and his irons outside of the Valero have just been excellent lately. I think he certainly can be a good leverage play, even without the course history for Ty Hatton. So another option to think about there. Let's jump into the last slide, and that would be my one and done pick. Last week I did have Ricky Fowler finished top 10. That was not helpful. A lot of people had Corey Connors. As far as the overall stats, I did fall in the rankings just slightly, even though I had another top 10. I'll keep plugging away. I am between 2 golfers this week. My first option that I really want to pick is Hideki Matsuyama. Obviously, he's won the Masters before. He finished well last week. He did withdraw at the match play, which is a bit concerning. Before that, though, he had another top 10 finish. So he's been playing, in general, outside of injuries. He's been playing pretty decent the last month or so. But I think the injury concerns really will have most people off him. So I'll get him at very low ownership, I think, in the one and done competitions. My other option I'm looking at, that would be Cam Smith. The live golfers are available in one and done this week. They'll only be available maybe a couple events, just depending on how they've performed. But a lot of them will not be available for all 4 majors, and maybe not again for the rest of the season on some of the golfers that are coming over from live this week. So maybe an opportunity to pick a guy that you won't be able to pick again and burn him instead of somebody else. I don't think there's any reason you can't play some of the guys up top. Anyone from Morikawa, Rahm, Rory, even Scotty Scheffler, if you still have him left. All those guys are great options too. But I will be picking between Hideki Matsuyama and Cam Smith come Wednesday night. I will get that posted into our Discord of who I am going to be following come Sunday, hopefully. That is going to do it for this week's show. Again, appreciate you watching. Masters Week, always one of the best weeks on the year. Make sure you download the app. Best way to follow all of the action. By far a better app than the PGA Tour app. So really excited to be able to get back into that, see shot for shot all weekend long. I hope you do really well. Again, please join the Discord through the website, fsidfs.com or at FSI_DFS. That is our Twitter handle. Join us there. Appreciate you watching. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. I will be following along and make sure to respond to anything you put here. And hopefully everyone has a great week. Good luck.